Brooklyn Pansy, pilot by Jason Forbach. Cold open. Fade in. Exterior Brooklyn Heights Promenade, early morning, 1890. High tide splashes hard against the seawall.
I will sleep no more but arise, you oceans that have been calm within me. How I feel you, fathomless, stirring, preparing unprecedented waves and storms.
Another crash of water. We soar over the upper New York Bay toward the modest Brooklyn Heights skyline. Rows of factories and brownstones crowd the base of the Brooklyn Bridge. Taking in the view at the water's edge, we close in on Leo Green, 21, a cherubic, blonde-haired nymph, as naive as he looks, who is dressed as formally as his small-town upbringing can supply. He stands admiring the skyline of lower Manhattan, looking out onto the water. He has set down his 2 large suitcases to scour over his ratted copy of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. Inside are clippings, notes, a crumpled, awkward map, and one piece of paper containing handwritten directions. 62 Montague Street. Immediately, a gust of wind blows the handwritten directions out of Leo's hands.
No! Oh, damn it!
He takes off running after it, winding wherever the wind takes the piece of paper.
No, please!
It lands on the foot of a handsome sailor, who bends over to pick it up. He is surrounded by 4 fellow sailors. Leo comes rushing over to him, a mess. A few of the sailors exchange a laugh.
This belongs to you, I imagine?
Montage. We see quick flashes of pairs of men meeting on the same spot on the promenade. From 1920s, a tuxedoed man comes across a factory worker.
Hello.
1950s, 2 stiffly suited men exchange a knowing look as they pass. 1980s, a roller skater completes a glorious turn to find a man in tight jeans watching him skate.
Yo.
2020, 2 young twinks have their heads buried in their phones unknowingly. A bleep, then another bleep. A dating app just signaled on each of their phones. They look up, finally noticing each other.
Hi.
End montage.
Yes, thank you. Hello.
The handsome sailor then turns to his friends.
Go on, I'll catch up.
As the other sailors leave, they tease him, snickering. Leo fumbles with his ridiculous map.
Not from here, are you?
What gave me away?
Just a guess. If you need directions.
You're not from here either.
What gave me away?
Just a guess.
We've come into port here a few times. I know my way around.
I'm looking for this address, a house with room to let, but I can barely read my own handwriting and I'm completely turned around.
So you're moving here?
If I can figure out where here is.
The handsome sailor notices the copy of Whitman on top of his suitcase while Leo tries to wrangle his map. He is amused.
Interesting.
My mother was completely opposed to me moving to Brooklyn at all. The last thing she said was to not speak to strangers, as there was much to be concerned about in the big city. People will just want to take advantage, and here I am, just...
The handsome sailor takes his hand and pushes the map down between them.
Taking advantage.
The handsome sailor looks around to see if there's anyone left on the promenade who might see them. He then turns to Leo, crackling passion in his eyes. This makes Leo incredibly nervous.
You don't have any idea where you're headed, do you?
He moves in even tighter to Leo. It's unbearable.
I'm afraid I don't.
The handsome sailor leans into Leo, afraid yet entranced. His ripe lips tremble. The handsome sailor holds there a moment, close, before suddenly kissing Leo with forceful rapture, as if they have never kissed before or will ever kiss again. Montage. Flash cuts of the men from 2020, 1980, 1950, 1920. Kiss. The handsome sailor pulls away. Leo is shocked. Handsome sailor smiles, thrilled, surprised, yet still a bit cocksure.
You'll find your way.
The handsome sailor puts the address lovingly in Leo's hand, nods gently to the left. Leo turns to see that he is just across from Montague Street. He can't believe it. As he turns back around, the handsome sailor is gone. Leo stands there in utter disbelief. We pull away from Leo, the city of Brooklyn expanding around him, its inhabitants coming to life. The skyline of Manhattan winks behind him just as another gush of water crashes against the seawall. His journey begins. End of cold open. Act 1. Exterior Montague Street, early morning. Leo Green comes upon a poster tacked to a lamppost. Missing girl, disappeared. Leo reads past the mention of reward money and falls upon the photo of a beautiful young woman holding a bouquet of flowers. Her beauty takes his breath away. He looks back at his map and carries on down the road. Interior Percy English's brownstone, entry stairs, day. Maggie Quinn, a leggy young Irish woman, 22, stumbles up the center stairs, dripping in loose-fitting negligee, a bit hungover. She trips over abandoned clothing on the stair, clues left behind from a man and a woman just before a liaison.
Percy!
Frustrated first, then managing a giggle.
You're an absolute disaster.
Interior outside Percy's bedroom door, continuous. Maggie stumbles up to the door and clobbers on it.
Percy!
Without waiting, she flings the door open to reveal the back of a nude blonde woman on her knees, riding the lap of a strapping young man laying reclined, facing the door. We see her beautiful hair cascading down her delicate arched back to her perfectly shaped ass. The strapping man sees Maggie barge in and shouts. Interior Percy's bedroom.
Jesus!
My God, I'm sorry.
The blonde falls to one side as the strapping man grabs a sheet to cover himself. Maggie half covers her eyes.
I was just looking for Percy.
The blonde woman pulls off what was just a wig to reveal Percy English, 25, a scrappy, lithe brunette Englishman, cracks a mischievous smile.
Couldn't wait now, could it, Maggie?
There's someone here for the room.
Percy collapses into the sheets and into the arms of the strapping man and sighs.
Hold my hair, darling. I'll be just a moment.
Percy bounds out of bed, naked. The strapping man holds the wig over his crotch, then manages an embarrassed wave. Exterior Percy English's brownstone, day. Leo Green stands patiently at the front door. Percy flings it open, wearing very little under a thin kimono.
I'm sorry to be disturbing you. I'm here about the room. I'm so sorry, please. I'm not entirely sure if I've gotten the right address. Let me check.
Stop. Shh.
Leo stands there, not knowing what to do next. Percy is sizing him up. Leo extends his hand.
I wrote to you about the room. Leo Green. I'm him. I'm Green.
Percy extends his hand into Leo's as if to be kissed.
Of course you are. They call me Percy English, and yes, you've come to the right address. The room is still available.
He considers Leo for a moment, so beautiful and new.
What's your story, Mr. Green? What brings you to my fair city?
Job with the Daily Eagle. Today's my first day.
So you are...
A writer. At least I hope to be. A poet, actually.
A poet, is that right?
One day, I hope. Anyway, I think it's important to expand one's worldview and...
Try new things?
I've never been away from home, and I need to experience...
Something different.
Yes.
It's a familiar story.
As Percy recites Leaves of Grass, he delicately traces the line of his exposed collarbone. Leo is as entranced as he is confused by this unconventional creature.
Not I, nor anyone else can travel that road for you. You must travel it by yourself. It is not far, it is within reach. Perhaps you have been on it since you were born and did not know.
Perhaps it is everywhere, on water and land.
Percy smiles.
A comrade who can quote Whitman.
Walt Whitman is the reason I'm in Brooklyn.
Percy considers him again, unbelievably pleased.
You'll do just fine.
And with his extended hand, he pulls Leo into the apartment. Interior, Percy English's apartment. Entry, continuous. Percy drags Leo from room to room. They pass by scantily clad Maggie.
This is Maggie Quinn.
Pleased to meet you.
They shake hands.
And you are...
Percy's concubine.
Roommate. Don't believe a word that comes out of her mouth.
Maggie giggles at Leo's shocked expression. The kitchen.
Here's the kitchen, small but serviceable.
The bath.
And the bath, also small, barely serviceable.
Outside the empty bedroom.
And this would be your room.
The strapping man, now formally dressed, awkwardly passes by to exit.
And he is?
Not small and quite serviceable.
Exterior naval shipyard day. Heavily suited, masked welders are hard at work, dangling from cords from the hull of a massive ship. Sparks crackle golden rain down in a heavenly spray. A supervisor approaches on the dock, some 20 feet below.
Alba!
We angle in closely on one welder who pauses for a moment, then raises their visor to reveal Alba Giannetta, 19, a bright, open-faced young Italian girl with a toughness, a sadness in her eyes far too early for a girl her age.
Alba! Hey, Alba!
The other welders remove their visors. A row of women. Interior shipyard offices, continuous. Alba mops sweat and oil from her face as she enters into a large office building, rows and rows of secretaries busy at their desks. Interior Mr. Toole's office, continuous. Alba approaches the office of Mr. Toole, 50s, who stands behind his desk, a fat, wet cigar in his mouth.
Alba Gianetta.
Yes, sir.
Sit.
She sits. The supervisor leaves.
Just received your request for time off. Your third in 3 weeks.
Yes, sir. I can explain.
Do you want to work here or not, Miss Gianetta? Because there are plenty of young women waiting to replace you.
My brother needs to see a specialist in the city. My mother is incapable.
Then your father should take him. Head of household should take care of such matters, not a pretty girl such as yourself.
Alba hangs her head. Mr. Toole moves to her side of the desk and sits directly in front of her. The cigar, now in his hand in his lap, dangles between his open legs.
Sir, with all due respect, my father is no longer.
You need this job, Alba, don't you? And you're good at it too, aren't you? I've heard you do a very fine job, Alba. Very fine.
He leans in close. With restrained disgust, Alba turns her head away. Frustrated, he bolts up to go back behind the desk.
So get back at it.
He slaps her request form on the desk. Denied. Interior, outside Mr. Toole's office, continuous. Mr. Toole's secretary, Lillian, 20s, is surrounded by 3 adoring male executives laughing at something ridiculous. Lillian notices Alba storm out and excuses herself, running after Alba. Alba turns around after Lillian taps her on the shoulder.
I'm sorry to bother you, but what happened back? It's nothing.
Lillian extends her hand, and in it is a small pot.
What is that? Rouge. For actresses and whores. For lips and cheeks. More women are wearing it now, and well, I got it in the Sears Roebuck catalog, if you can believe that.
Alba notices the men waiting for Lillian's return.
It's not what you're asking for, it's how you ask it. Come back later today, freshen up a bit, and I'll see to it that he reconsiders your request.
Lillian extends the pot of rouge one final time.
No, thank you, but I don't. If you want a man to give you what you want, yes, you do.
Interior Coney Island, the Black-Eyed Pea Day. We slowly close in on the silhouette of a large, imposing man named G from behind, sitting at a bar, African-American, wearing a tuxedo, slumped over, broad shoulders, top hat akimbo. He taps his glass, signaling for another. The bartender reluctantly obliges with another finger of whiskey.
That's it, G. Then you better get on to going. Sun's up.
No response. A scantily clad showgirl slinks up, running a finger along G's shoulder. The tuxedoed man pounds the shot, then grabs her ass hard, just before he passes out cold, slamming down hard on the bar face first. His top hat rolls to the edge of the bar.
Lord, help me with this?
Interior bathroom, continuous. Flash cut of images. The showgirl removes G's jacket, shirt studs, all the finery to reveal that G is really Gwendolyn Jackson, 40s, a large-breasted, mannish behemoth of a woman. End flash cut.
You always been trying to get me out of my clothes, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Gwendolyn's eyes roll back in her head. She passes out cold. The showgirl pauses just before she slaps Gwendolyn hard across the face, back to life.
Come on now, G. We gotta get you home. Get you back to your kids.
They fine, my sister's got 'em.
How about that husband, then?
A sobering question.
Fuck that rat bastard.
Gwendolyn immediately starts to retch. The showgirl rinses her off with a rag, gives her water. She mildly comes to, enough so that she can wrangle her into a corset and bustle. Despite her intoxication, we see the confidence and power drain from Gwendolyn, now stripped out of male drag and into women's clothes. Exterior Coney Island, the Creole Club, day. The showgirl escorts Gwendolyn to the front steps of the club, the harsh morning light blinding her. She is now dressed every bit a proper lady.
Best be moving, Gwendolyn.
Gwendolyn shamefully groans a yes. She is a mess. The showgirl steps back inside. Gwendolyn takes a few shaky steps forward. White commuters scuttle about her on the boardwalk, her other reality. She steps into the blistering sun. Interior the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, hallway, day. Frank Briggs, 27, an intelligent, strong, square-faced Jack London type, walks quickly down the hall. His friend, George Stout, 20s, struggles to keep up.
So, what did she say?
I didn't ask her, George.
The ring wasn't burnt in a hole in your pocket?
I don't know what to tell you.
Tell me you asked her to marry you and she said yes. You're going to miss out on a great girl.
I always trust my gut, and my gut was telling me that timing wasn't right. All right?
Frank rushes into the newsroom, the meeting already in progress.
All right.
Interior the Brooklyn Daily Eagle newsroom, day. The editor is shouting out assignments to hungry reporters. Frank and George try to weave their way through the bodies to a space in the back of the room.
Caldwell and Devoy, getting anywhere with City Hall?
Can't get them to comment.
Put heat on them. Now, Kelshaw, continue the election coverage. And Briggs?
Frank stops cold, then turns around.
Yeah?
You're late.
Sorry, sir.
They're reopening a portion of the dock at the Naval Yard. A simple society piece by end of day. Hopefully that can be on time.
Reporters laugh.
Now, Roberts can continue with...
Sir, I was hoping to continue my inquiry into the Balsamo family.
I'm the one that gives assignments, Mr. Briggs, not you. Is that clear? All right, everybody, back to work.
But sir...
Reporters exit the room. George discreetly cautions Frank as he exits.
Your gut should be telling you to be quiet.
This rise of organized crime, there are rumors circulating the last 3 manslaughter charges.
We are a newspaper that reports on news, Mr. Briggs, not rumor or conjecture. We will cover the beat. You will cover the beat you were assigned.
But sir...
We are not stirring up all that silt.
This moment hangs between them in the now empty room. Frank stares down at the editor only to concede. He takes out a cigarette and lights it.
You're a good reporter, Mr. Briggs, but you need to learn your place just as we all have. If you want to be taken seriously, you need to take your work seriously. The Naval Yard, now. And that new kid will meet you there. Show him the ropes. Play nice.
Frank exhales a cloud of irritated smoke. Exterior Brooklyn Navy Yard, day. Leo and Percy walk up to the festivities. A brass band plays in the distance. Children laugh and squeal with cotton candy. It is joyful pandemonium.
Be my guest tonight, please. At the Gaiety, 9 o'clock. It will be a proper way to introduce you to the city.
The Gaiety? What goes on there?
All sorts of spectacular spectacles vaudeville has to offer. You'll see. I want it to be a surprise.
I'd love to.
Now, how are we to find this newspaper man of yours?
I'm not entirely sure.
Frank stands tall, perusing the morning's paper, facing away from the direction of most of the lively onlookers. His handsome stature stands out amongst any crowd.
That was easier than I thought. Run off, little one.
I'll see you at...
9 o'clock, and don't be late.
Leo Green rushes up to Frank. Percy strolls off.
You're late.
I'm sorry. I'm Leo Green. Pleasure to... I really appreciate this opportunity. Honestly, I've never worked for a newspaper before. Well, I've worked for the city clerk in Montpellier.
Here's a bit of advice, okay? If you want to be taken seriously, you need to take your work seriously. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now, we are here specifically to...
In the distance, there's a rumble of confusion.
What's going on?
All of a sudden, a woman screams. The band stops playing. Frank springs into action. He quickly muscles his way through the unsettled crowd.
Pardon me, please, coming through.
Leo hurriedly attempts to follow. Exterior Brooklyn Navy Yard, day. Onlookers line along Market Street as an anchor being drawn up pulls up a young woman's body up from the water. Her skirt caught in its prongs. Her long, wet hair hangs heavy and black. Her mouth is horrifically agape. The crowd gasps, cries. Some of the women look away.
My God.
Frank stands amongst horrified crowd, their faces averted from the gruesome sight. Enraptured, Frank doesn't look away. He continues through the crowd.
I'm with the Daily Eagle. Please, let me through.
Leo winces and turns away. He just happens to notice Percy standing at the edge of the crowd. He suspiciously hasn't left the affair. Percy's face drains of color. Even through the madness, Leo can see his expression is that of horrified recognition. We can hear Frank off camera trying to get to the heart of the action through the madness of the crowd, but we only see Leo's face processing what he is seeing in Percy's. Percy looks around to see if he has been seen, then collects himself to run off, deathly afraid. Leo turns back toward the dock to find Frank, just as they slap the wet woman's corpse on the pavement. End of Act 1. Act 2. Interior Alba Giannatta's home, late afternoon. Water rushes over the hair of Alba's mother, Delpha, late 40s, as she sits in the tub in an almost zombie-like trance. Alba dutifully pours water through the suds in her hair. Interior kitchen continuous. Gilda, late 50s, a heavy-set Italian woman and family friend, is in the kitchen slaving over a stovetop. Alba's younger brother Enzo, 12, sits quietly at the table. Alba walks in, damp sleeves from her mother's bath.
These should go another 10 minutes.
Thank you, Gilda.
I must go. I have my own family to feed.
Smells like Grandma made it.
I know what I'm doing. Your sister could learn a thing or two, though.
Alba smiles a passive, conceding smile.
Alba's too busy.
Ah, see, I know. Okay, I must be off. Ciao, ciao, bello.
Gilda gives Enzo a kiss on the head. She goes to leave, but before she exits the room, Gilda quietly asides to Alba, indicating Enzo.
He seems to be getting worse.
I know.
You think these doctors can help?
It's worth a try.
I'm going blind, not deaf.
Alba and Gilda turn back to Enzo. Gilda lovingly ruffles Enzo's hair. Just then, Delpha walks past them and into the kitchen to sit down at the table, still in a trance. She stares blankly ahead of her.
Buon pomeriggio, Delpha.
Enzo reaches out and puts her hand in his. Gilda heads back towards Alba, ready to leave.
And what about her?
Alba just shakes her head in defeat. Gilda shakes her head and gathers her things, preparing to leave.
Nel nome del Pedro, e del Figlio, e dello Spirito Santo.
Gilda crosses herself, and as she exits, exterior front door continuous, Alba stops Gilda, who palms her rosary as she exits through the front door.
I really do appreciate all that you do for us. But none of that in this house, please.
Gilda kisses Alba on the forehead, compassionate, forgiving.
Your contempt, my darling, is not with man, is with man, not God. Ah, speaking of man, one came by the house earlier looking for you.
Who?
No name, strange, a crib.
What did he want?
To talk about your father. A lot of questions about you.
What did you tell him?
Nothing everyone doesn't already know. You work at the shipyards, you support this family, you work too hard. I keep saying this.
All right.
Which I think is a shame. You could find a good man. Have him take care of you and your family.
Gilda, basta.
Fine, fine. He said he'd be back.
Alba smiles, even though her blood has run cold. Gilda smiles, then waddles down the street. Exterior Weeksville, Brooklyn, Gwendolyn's home, afternoon. Gwendolyn is scrubbing laundry over a washing board in a barrel on the front stoop. Her two children, Johnny Boy and Billy Jr., 6 and 8, are running around the house playing. Gwendolyn's husband, a brick house of a man, William, wearily saunters up to the house in his filthy work clothes.
There you are.
Where else would I be but washing your drawers?
Whose drawers you have in your hands last night?
Gwendolyn doesn't respond, just goes back to scrubbing.
And who was here to mind the house? And who is here to mind these kids?
You know good well Betsy was...
Your sister threw her back out. Couldn't be here. These damn kids were left to their own. Now don't make me ask you again, woman. Where you been?
Gwendolyn is visibly shaken at being caught.
Really? Not now. You know I was working, and I got a lot of work left here, and my head's pounding, so...
William snaps his arm out, gripping Gwendolyn hard by the collar, forcing her up to her feet.
Your head gonna be pounding, all right? Why you out all night?
Trouble getting home, that's all.
I can smell the booze on you, girl. You reek of it. Wearing men's clothes have turned you into a confused bitch, ain't it? Thinking you better than me? Thinking you the man of the house now?
No, it ain't like that.
Everybody knows what devil work you do. Bringing shame to this house. Shame to your boys.
He forces her to see Johnny Boy and Billy Jr. They have stopped their play, horrified to watch their father nearly strangle their mother.
Mama?
She gasps for breath, fighting tears from falling.
Look how ashamed they are, Gwenny.
I can't breathe.
Mama?
William releases his grip, dropping her hard onto the ground, knocking the barrel over. The sudsy water runs down the front steps. Johnny Boy starts to run toward her, but Billy Jr. stops.
Mama!
Mama's just gone and made a mess now. Didn't she, boy?
Gwendolyn looks up at William, then to her concerned children.
It's all right now. Just trip and fell, hear me? Now run along.
Johnny Boy has tears running down his face. Billy Jr. has a fire in his eyes, although he knows he must do as he is told. He walks his little brother away from the porch. William lifts Gwendolyn up to her feet, pulling her close.
Now look. Got yourself all wet.
He pulls her in tighter, sexually aggressive. He begins to grope her.
You getting me all wet, too. Now, Gwenny, look what you
He
done.
grips her hard. She restrains a cry. She knows what she's about to endure.
Get inside.
William looks out to see if anyone on the street has witnessed this altercation. He gropes himself, getting hard, then follows Gwendolyn inside. Exterior naval shipyard, late afternoon. There is chaos in the crowd of onlookers. Police block off the area. Frank tries to burst through a manned barricade. He can't get through.
I'm gonna try to get around. Find out where they're taking her.
Of
course.
Frank runs off through the screaming pedestrians and panicked children. Leo suddenly sees the handsome sailor on the other side of the police line. The sailor springs into action, helping to retrieve the wet corpse. We see him routinely check her vitals. He's part of the ship's medical corps. They set the body inside a large white body bag. Paramedics approach. The handsome sailor looks up from the body to shout out directions when, through the madness, he catches Leo's gaze. Leo moves closer to the line. Several naval officers carry the body bag away. The handsome sailor, now known as Richard, maneuvers through the medical teams that have gathered to reach Leo.
I knew I hadn't seen the last of you yet.
What happened?
Can't say for sure.
Awful.
It is.
Where are they taking her?
Richard looks back at the authorities handling the body, then back at Leo.
Please, can you tell me anything?
Navy's to conduct an autopsy first. And since the body was technically discovered on the ship, it is their jurisdiction. But they will work with the city police. A whole complicated mess, which does have one benefit.
Which is?
We're staying in port an extra night. I have the night free.
Leo pauses, considering this a moment, before he smiles.
I've work to do. I don't... Meet me at the gating. There's a vaudeville review at 9 o'clock.
Interior Percy English's brownstone, basement, late afternoon. Percy walks down the narrow wooden staircase and begins to go through the boxes and trunks stored there.
The man who lets the room I'm staying in is in the show.
He pulls one trunk out from underneath a broken dress form. Exterior backyard, continuous. Percy drags the trunk up to a large barrel in a fenced yard filled with scrap. With frantic efficiency, he pulls women's clothing out of the trunk and flings the items into the barrel. He pours a tin of gasoline into the barrel.
Fascinating man. Kind, if not a bit curious. I'm sure the evening promises to be nothing short of spectacular.
Percy, hair disheveled, grabs a cigarette from his case in his waistcoat pocket. He strikes a match, lights the cigarette, then flings the lit match into the barrel. It roars with flame. A curl of black smoke unfurls into the Brooklyn skyline. End of Act 2. Act 3. Interior Enzo's bedroom, late afternoon. Enzo, napping on his bed, starts to mutter in his sleep. Then he bolts up, screaming.
Papa! Papa!
Alba rushes into the room.
It's all right. It's all right.
Enzo reaches out to find Alba.
Alba! Where are you, Alba?
I'm right here.
She takes his hands.
I saw Papa. I saw him and then he was gone. Everything went black.
Enzo breaks down into tears. Alba strokes his hair, trying to calm him.
It's all right. It's all right. We're gonna fix you. We are.
Interior Maggie's room, late afternoon. Maggie, curled up on her bed with a magazine, quietly hums to herself. An incessant hard metal thrum of a typewriter chatters from the other room. Annoyed yet curious, she flings the magazine down on the bed and bursts to her feet. Interior Leo Green's bedroom, late afternoon. The punch of the typewriter letters hammering paper. Leo is sitting at a simple desk, hard at work. He is typing furiously, then suddenly comes to a halt. He looks up from his work to see a picture in a frame, a portrait of him and his mother. He takes the picture from the windowsill and regards it. Then he pulls the picture out of the frame. It is folded to obscure the rest of the image. He unfolds a panel to reveal his father, the face somewhat scratched out, hastily, violently so. Just as he is about to unfold it again to reveal another, Maggie knocks on the door. How long has she been standing there?
Am I disturbing you?
Shocked, Leo refolds the picture and places it back in the frame quickly to not be noticed.
No, not at all.
Wanted to see how you were settling in?
Fine, thanks. The room is perfect.
Good. So, where are you from?
Vermont?
Vermont. Is it pretty there?
Beautiful.
And you have family there too?
Yes,
Maggie steps over to him. He hands her the photograph.
This your mother?
I really miss her.
I see where you get your pretty face.
I've been away only a day and I'm homesick. Isn't that funny?
Not at all. It never goes away. I miss my family every day. Or at least the idea of them. So, what are you running from?
Excuse me?
Everyone in this city is either running from or towards something. Like a pack of bloodthirsty wolves. If you wanted something simple, you would have stayed where you were, wouldn't you?
I'm not running from anything.
Maggie smiles. She notices Leo has put up his defenses. She hands the portrait back.
This city is for the hungry. Remember that. I'll leave you be.
She starts to leave when
And just keep it fucking down in here. That typewriter's infuriating.
Leo, dumbstruck, is left holding the picture. Interior shipyard offices, women's restroom, early evening. Alba looks hard at her reflection in the mirror. She is dressed properly, like a lady, her hair pulled up tightly. She takes out the pot of rouge Lillian had given her and applies the color to her lips with a strange fascination. Exterior, outside Mr. Toole's office, a bit later. The hall is empty, save for a few remaining clerks. Lillian is gathering her things to leave, but stops short when she notices Alba approach.
Alba?
May I please speak with Mr. Toole?
I'm afraid he's not in a
He
state.
suggested I should return. It's important.
Lillian looks in through the main office windows. She notices Mr. Toole, already intoxicated, struggle to pour himself a drink from a decanter.
Let me speak with him first.
Alba watches as Lillian goes into the office to make the request. As she speaks to him, Mr. Toole becomes incensed until he peers out the window, noticing how beautifully Alba is dressed. Another bit of mumbled conversation before Lillian steps back outside, her head down.
I know I suggested making another appeal, but now is not the right.
Alba!
Lillian hesitantly motions for Alba to go in. Interior Mr. Toole's office, continuous. Alba opens the door. Mr. Toole leans back in his chair, pleased with himself.
Couldn't stay away, could you?
Alba doesn't know what to say.
Barely recognized you, not covered in grease like a mangy dog.
Sir,
What is it you came for? The pleasure of my company?
Mr. Toole rises and heads toward the windows.
I wanted to speak with you about my request for time off.
I thought I made myself clear.
I was hoping you might reconsider.
Is that so?
Alba catches a panicked, knowing look in Lillian's eye outside the window, just before Toole draws the shade. Mr. Toole returns to his seat.
Come here. Sit on my lap and ask me again.
Alba considers this request for a long, hard moment.
I want to show you how bad this boy needs to see a doctor.
Alba has callously accepted what she has come here to do. She then proceeds to walk to his side of the desk.
Don't be shy.
It pains her greatly to sit on his lap, but she does anyway.
Sir,
Come on now, speak up. He must be very sick. Just how sick is he?
His hand runs up her leg, past her knee, up the inside of her thigh. She jumps, startled, to her feet.
Oh, we've a wild one.
sir, please.
I thought you were wanting something from me. How'd you think you were gonna get it?
Alba is rattled with fear. She presses up against the door to the office. Mr. Toole rushes after her. He presses her against the door, pinning her against it.
Let's see how far you'll go.
Mr. Toole puts his hands on her roughly, presses his sloppy mouth against hers. She squirms under his grip and in a garbled scream tries to protest. He whips her around, her face pressed hard against the wall. He hikes up her skirt, opens his fly. He grabs her hard by the hair. She screams. Alba kicks back, striking Mr. Toole in the groin with the heel of her boot. He collapses to the floor.
Jesus!
Mr. Toole screams, squirming on the floor.
You bitch!
Alba stands looming over him. Something comes over her. A defiant rage fills in her eyes, something which hadn't existed before. Alba hauls off and kicks Mr. Toole in the ribs. He howls.
Get out! Get out and never come back here, you bitch!
Alba runs out of the office.
Never come back!
Exterior shipyard offices, continuous. Lillian, who had stayed behind, sees Alba run out. She then follows her. Exterior city street, continuous.
Alba! Alba, wait!
Alba doesn't slow her furious stride.
Alba!
Go away.
Are you alright?
Lillian grabs a hold of Alba's shoulder. She whips her around. There is a fury in her eyes that frightens Lillian.
Don't touch me.
I'm sorry.
What do you care?
I want to help.
You've helped me plenty. I came as you suggested, the proper whore, and
Did he hurt you? I know he can be difficult, but never like this.
enough. You've done more than enough. And now I'm out of a job.
Alba turns away and resumes her resolute walk away from the office. Lillian continues to follow.
I have a family too.
Alba stops.
Had. My husband left me after our baby died. We couldn't get her to the treatment she needed, and I know what it is like to not to be able to care for the people you love most. I wanted to help you.
Alba looks back at Lillian, tears streaking her face.
What am I to do now?
We'll figure it out. Here, wipe your face.
Lillian takes a kerchief from her purse and wipes Alba's tear-streaked rouge from her cheeks.
You're much more beautiful without it.
Interior Daily Eagle, evening. The editor is hunched over papers at his desk, smoking a pipe. Frank rushes in.
I have a few leads on who might be able to identify the young woman found in the river today.
You're past deadline. Again.
I can't begin to believe you still want a society piece on the reopening after what happened today.
It was your assignment, was it not?
Yes, but
And it was due by the end of today, correct?
this should take precedence.
Donald and Samuel are already covering the drowned woman. The Navy doesn't want word of it. The Navy doesn't want word of it attached to the dock reopening in the press. I'm getting it from all sides, and you have simply found yourself coming up short on yet another deadline.
Sir.
This is cause for dismissal.
All air exits the room.
Fortunately for you, today is your lucky day.
Editor slams a copy of the article on the desk. Frank's name is on it.
What's this?
You described the event as festively buoyant, or don't you remember?
I can explain, sir.
You've never said festively buoyant a day in your life.
Sir,
It seems your junior writer, Mr. Green, is eager to please.
I had no idea this won't happen again.
No, it won't, because you'll both be out of a job.
Interior printing room continuous. Frank barges in. Leo watches the next day's paper being pressed. Leo snaps around, defensive, as Frank charges him.
What are you trying for?
What do you mean?
Forging my name? Writing my article?
I couldn't find you at the shipyard. No one saw you come back to the office. You hadn't written anything, so I...
Frank pushes him forward and forcefully slams him against the wall, pinning him there. They are nose to nose.
Thought you would gun for my job.
No, I swear, I was just...
Or were you just trying to make me look the fool?
I wanted to help.
Frank's fury burns into Leo's eyes. In them, Frank sees how far he has gone and takes a step back.
Either you are incredibly brilliant or incredibly stupid. Which is it?
I think incredibly naive. You're hurting my arm.
Frank releases his grip.
One more incident like this, and we're both out of a job.
I don't understand you. Your contempt for this paper, this work? It seems as if you don't even want this job.
Of course I want this job. I need this job. It's who I am. But this is not who I am. I don't want to cover society pieces for the rest of my life. I want to have something to say. This is not who I am. I don't want to cover society pieces for the rest of my life. I want to have something to say. I want to make a difference. Speak up for the people who need a voice. That's the job that I'm supposed to do. That's what this paper is supposed to do.
This moment breathes. Frank turns away from Leo, staring out a window. Leo stares at him, a bit afraid, but thrilled to see his vulnerability.
Otherwise, we'll just keep pulling dead girls out of the river, you know?
Leo considers him a moment.
Let me help you.
Frank looks back at Leo, confused, skeptical.
The girl they found today,
I've already contacted the city morgue, government officials. No one will talk.
because she isn't there. But I know where she is.
End of Act 3. Act 4. Interior Johnny Boy and Billy Jr.'s room, evening. Candlelight flickers on Gwendolyn's slightly battered face. She gently tucks Johnny Boy into his bed. Billy Jr. sits on the edge of his bed, sullen, arms crossed.
How about a story?
Yes!
Billy Jr. is silent, his eyes hard. Gwendolyn grabs a book by the bedside table, sits on Johnny Boy's bed, and reads.
Once upon a time, there was a magical elephant.
An elephant?
Yes, an elephant. Now lie back. Calm yourself. An elephant so majestic and magical, she can do all kinds of wonderful things. But one day, she was captured, put into a circus to perform tricks.
What kind of tricks?
She could stand on one leg and catch a ball flying in the air. She could jump through a fiery hoop.
Johnny Boy giggles. Billy Jr. is still unresponsive.
Then, one day, the evil ringmaster got angry. He whipped that elephant so bad she lost her magic.
Lost her magic?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did she do?
She decided to escape.
Where did she go?
Gwendolyn looks up from the book, noticing Billy Jr. somewhat taken aback by his sudden involvement.
She wanted to go home. Back to the jungle where she belongs.
What about all the other animals?
What other animals?
In the circus. The baby bears, ponies, and things. What about them?
Yeah, what happens to them?
She got them too. They all broke free together and ran away back to the jungle just as happy as can be.
Johnny Boy collapses back into bed with a smile.
I like elephants.
Billy Jr. sits up and leans over to his mother. He takes the book, which was upside down, and turns it right side up, placing it back in her hands. She looks at him, a bit ashamed.
You sure do got a lot of stories, don't you, Ma?
Gwendolyn is taken aback, ashamed.
But they all have happy endings. You can mark my word. Close your eyes, baby.
Gwendolyn blows the candle out. She goes to tuck Billy Jr., but he abruptly turns from her. Interior Gwendolyn's bedroom, later. Gwendolyn brushes her top hat, pridefully folds her tuxedo shirt, places each item meticulously in a carpet bag. Interior Percy English's bedroom, continuous. Percy holds up a beautiful string of fake diamonds, long silk gloves. He takes pride in placing each item in his case. Interior Gwendolyn's living area later. William is sprawled out on a chair, his legs splayed, bottles of beer at his feet. He is passed out, intoxicated. Gwendolyn stands there with her large suitcase. She looks at him defiantly. Interior Percy's bedroom. Percy, frantic to leave, comes across a photograph on a shelf by his door. He stops short. It is of the beautiful young woman found dead in the river. It is the photograph from the missing girl poster, the one with the bouquet of flowers. He looks at the photograph with charged emotion just before he takes out the picture to tear it into bits, letting the bits fall into a bin. Interior Gwendolyn's living area. We can see through the screen door Gwendolyn's silhouette march through the dusty street into the distance. Exterior the Harbinger's saloon, night. Alba and Lillian walk in the side ladies' entrance into the saloon. It is raucous, overflowing.
We can't go in there.
Oh, yes, we can.
Interior the Harbinger's saloon. Alba and Lillian are a few drinks in, laughing, slightly intoxicated.
The look on his face. He was red as a beet.
Don't laugh. He might press charges.
He'll be too embarrassed. A woman sending him to the floor? He died before he let anyone find out.
What came over me?
I dare not cross you. The look on your face alone had my blood run cold.
I'm sorry.
Stop making apologies. I do happen to have a few tricks up my sleeve in regard to new employment. If you'll allow me to help you.
Please, no, I don't need any more makeup.
Lillian and Alba dub her over again in laughter.
I should be distraught. I can't remember the last time I laughed this much.
You should laugh more often. It's quite adorable.
Alba is embarrassed. She hangs her head, looking into her drink for a way out of this turn in conversation.
So, are you...
Attached?
Yes.
I believe so.
What does that mean?
Lillian pulls out her locket from about her neck and opens it up.
I have been seeing a very fine man for some time. I thought he might propose, but...
The photograph in the locket is of Frank Briggs.
He has a strong face.
And a strong will. I'm starting to believe there isn't much room for me alongside his pursuit for truth and justice.
Is he an officer?
Worse, a journalist. Don't listen to me. I love him very much and he loves me. And you?
No.
I think that was about 6 no's, which nearly confirms it.
I don't have the time for romantic pursuits, and if I did, I'm more inclined to seek out the attention of...
Two awkward gentlemen intrude upon the two women's conversation.
Ladies?
We hate to interrupt.
Then don't.
The two gentlemen are immediately rattled by her response. They've met their match.
We've got a live wire here.
What he means to say is it would be our great pleasure to buy you 2 fine ladies a drink.
Alba doesn't know how to respond. Lillian galvanizes her powers of persuasion, almost enjoying showing off for Alba.
A drink? Just the one? Do you propose we share it?
No, of course not. 2 drinks. We would both love to purchase each of you a...
Unfortunately, we must be off. We were just about to leave. But you are more than welcome to pay for these drinks we've already enjoyed. What an incredibly generous offer.
Wait.
Thank you, gentlemen. You are incredibly kind.
Alba giggles. Lillian bolts up, grabbing Alba and dragging her up behind her out of the bar.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Then, awestruck.
Now that is a woman.
Gentleman 2 playfully smacks Gentleman 1. Exterior city street, night. Alba and Lillian giggle together on the street. They're even more intoxicated than before.
I have a brilliant idea.
She grabs Alba's hand.
Where are you taking me?
Interior, the Gaiety, backstage, night. A trumpeter blares through a few scales, warming up. Leo wanders through a maze of hallways backstage of the theater. He is looking for one room in particular. He passes by crew members and strange characters, a turbaned man and a little person, a woman wearing a horse head, and various costumed characters. He finds the correct room, knocking as he flings it open.
Percy, I'm a bit early.
Leo barges in on Percy, half in painted drag, wearing a delicate robe. He is forcefully held upright by 2 mysterious gentlemen. Another strange man, shorter in stature with a mustache, and his right arm slightly deformed, twisted, with only one finger that hangs like a hook, stands before him.
I'm sorry?
The 2 gentlemen, shocked to be intruded on, relax their hold. Percy quickly adopts an effervescent persona, deftly wiping away a tear.
Leo, darling, your timing could be more perfect. These gentlemen were just about to leave.
As they collect themselves, Percy exchanges a knowing glance with the strange man.
I do hope you enjoy the show.
The men look hard at Leo as they exit. Leo is taken aback.
Are you alright?
A few ardent fans. Please, sit. A drink?
No, but thank you.
Leo is unsettled, entranced not only by Percy's performance, but by the feminine finery that hangs about the room.
Why do you do it?
Do what?
This.
I don't think there was much of a choice in the matter.
Percy positions himself in front of his dressing mirror. He attempts to repair his makeup.
How do you mean?
We don't get to choose, do we? These things are born within us. Wouldn't you agree?
Percy turns away from the mirror to look at Leo. Leo looks away, uncomfortable. Percy resumes repairing his makeup.
Men tend to think there is no power in what I do, in wearing women's clothes, but I find it to be quite the opposite. I've never felt more powerful. These might be cliché tropes we trot on that stage every night, but I believe we are holding up a mirror, showing society a part of themselves they are too afraid to see for themselves. And when they realize these bits of finery, this woman, and their attraction to her, their perception of this reality is all an illusion, it frightens them, and it turns them on. It upends all they've ever known, like a ride on a tilt-a-whirl. Everyone loves what they see in the mirror, don't they? And yet, everyone fears it. And do you want to know why? Because mirrors never lie. Now, do they?
Percy punctuates this moment by crowning his head with a beautiful wig. He has fully become a beautiful woman, Lily Elise. Leo pauses for a moment, then...
You knew her, didn't you?
Who's that, darling?
The woman they found in the river today. I saw you when they brought her up.
Percy hesitates to answer this.
Oh, Pansy. Yes, pretty Pansy. Poor, pretty Pansy. What a tragic end.
That was her name? Pansy?
Osmond. Pansy Osmond. She named herself after that character in Portrait of a Lady. Henry James. I'm sure you're familiar.
She named herself?
She wanted to be a great lady. She wished above all to please, or something like that.
Do you know what happened to her?
Just then a stagehand bursts into the room.
15 minutes!
Percy rises up from his dressing station to escort Leo out.
I must go. Time waits for no man, nor woman. Thank you for coming. I do hope you enjoy yourself.
But wait,
I haven't much time.
how did you know her?
Percy pauses by the door.
You're staying in the room she used to let.
Exterior Brooklyn Navy Yard, night. Moonlight casts shadows of the mighty ships in port. Richard stands at the end of a long dock. Frank appears from the mist and approaches him.
Mr. Briggs.
Frank walks up to Richard. We see them shake hands. In it, Richard palms cash from Frank's hand. They both walk up the gangway. A young sailor meets them near the entrance.
To the morgue, quickly. In and out. Do you understand? Yes, sir.
They salute one another. Richard is pulling rank. Richard leaves the gangway. Frank watches Richard walk off into the darkness.
You heard him. In and out.
Frank follows the young sailor into the ship. End of Act 4. Act 5. Interior the Gaiety, on stage, night. Gwendolyn, now dressed in her finest tucks and tails, top hat and cane, strides across the stage. She holds a strong figure against the bold spotlight that ignites tight on her face.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Wait, there better not be any children in this audience.
The audience laughs.
Because what you are about to see is not for the faint of heart. Flights of fancy and spectacular spectacles not to be believed.
Exterior the Gaiety. Lillian and Alba buy 2 tickets from the box office clerk. They rush inside. Interior backstage. Percy stands in the wings, lost in thought amongst the curtains.
Sit back, relax, and feast your eyes on this delight for the senses.
Exterior the Gaiety. Richard walks up to Leo. They exchange a warm smile. That same electric charge is between them. They go inside. Interior ship passageway. The young sailor and Frank walk briskly down a narrow hall.
You will see the remarkable and the wonderful beyond your wildest imagination, the astonishingly abnormal and the uncommonly queer.
Interior the Gaiety, the theater. Leo and Richard walk in to find their seats. They pass Alba and Lillian. They exchange a look, a smile. Gwendolyn has taken to the stage like a master, her dominance returned.
My name is Mr. Gwenny King, and I will be your master of ceremonies, but you may call me G, your MC, and I will guide you through this voyage of temptation and venality.
Close on Alba and Lillian.
Look at all of these people. Some of the most famous New Yorkers. I read about them in magazines.
Close on Leo and Frank.
This is unreal.
Gwendolyn welcomes a stream of dancing showgirls to the stage. Interior morgue. The young sailor walks into the dimly lit room. Frank slowly follows.
Seen a dead body before?
Clearly having not.
Yes, of course.
The young sailor goes to one particular metal drawer, unlocks it, and opens the door.
There will be death-defying acts and actors whom defy description.
Interior, the gaiety on Alba and Lillian. They are looking around the theater as much as they are watching the festivities on stage.
There's William Crane. Who? A famous actor, silly. And Edith Wharton. How do you know all of this?
Interior morgue. The young sailor pulls out the long drawer and the long white body bag. The young sailor slowly pulls on the zipper of the bag.
You will have your world turned upside down.
Interior, the gaiety. Two little people, wrist to ankle, come out from the wings, cartwheeling across the stage. The crowd laughs, distorted images of ecstatic faces.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
The band cranks up, and Gwendolyn begins singing A Hot Time in the Old Town. Men dressed as women, including Percy, come out and one by one perform in the number with Gwendolyn.
There'll be girls for everybody in that good old town.
The music continues over the next scenes.
For there's Miss Consuelo Davis, and there's Miss Condolia Brown, and there's Miss Joanna Beasley. She's as dressed all in red. I just hugged her and I kissed her, and to me then she said, please, oh do not let me fall. You're all mine, and I love you best of all. And you must be my man, or I'll have no man at all. There'll be a hot time in the old town tonight, my baby.
On Leo and Richard, they laugh and exchange a look. We see each of them have their hand on their own knee, barely touching. Their fingers graze one another ever so slightly. Leo's heart is racing. He can barely catch his breath. On Alba and Lillian.
Isn't it outrageous?
Lillian, smiling, turns to Alba just to notice her expression drop. Lillian turns to see what Alba is looking at. The strange man with the hooked finger. He and his henchmen are seated above in a box to their right. The henchmen belly laugh, but the strange man's expression is cold, lifeless. His ominous face turns slightly, so Alba can see it clearly, without him seeing her. Alba can't turn away, fixed on his face. The horror of it fills Alba's eyes.
It's a frightening deformity. And he's quite the notorious reputation. His name is...
Clutch Hand.
You don't know Edith Wharton, but you know the Clutch Hand?
Nearly hyperventilating, Alba bolts up out of her seat and climbs over disgruntled patrons in her row. Lillian attempts to follow after her.
Alba!
Alba, barely able to catch her breath, runs out of the theater. Interior, the morgue. The young sailor pulls back the white cotton bag and exposes the beautiful face of the dead woman. The young sailor looks back at Frank, checking how he's holding up.
This is not for the faint of heart.
Interior, the gaiety. On Leo and Richard. Without looking at each other, both enjoying the show, they stealthily interlock fingers. They dare to hold each other's hand in public. Interior, the morgue.
And it isn't what you think.
Exterior, the gaiety. Alba runs out of the theater and onto the street, breathless. Lillian comes chasing after her.
What's wrong?
That man.
What about him? Do you know him?
That man is...
What? Take a moment. Catch your breath.
Alba looks up finally, and with a bone-chilling directness.
That man is Giuseppe Morello, and he killed my father.
Interior, the morgue. The white cover is slowly pulled down, exposing her beautiful face, long wavy brown hair, a delicate arm, the joint of her hip. Frank can't believe what he is seeing. His eyes widen. He slowly raises his Kodak box camera up to his face.
She's not really a woman. She's...
The camera flashbulb goes off. Interior, the gaiety. Stage.
There will be a hot time in the old town tonight.
The crowd leaps to its feet, erupting with applause. Fade to black.